When you walk in, the customer is going to have a price point in their mind. And that's here. If you continue to stack value with everything you do, the experience, what your company brings to the table, the installers that come out, everything else is going to stack that proposition. And when that value proposition supersedes that price point that they thought that was good and acceptable, when your value proposition comes in here, you're in the yes zone. They're going to say yes.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Before we get into today's episode, if you want to learn how to recession-proof your business, we're going to have a live event on April 25th here at our Culver City office just outside of Los Angeles. So if you want to learn how to recession-proof your business right from Uncle Joe, you can either get your tickets to the live in-person event and come out here to our office, or we're also doing an online live webinar version that you can get as well. Both of those options are available to get your tickets at the link in the description. See you there.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's service sales coach, and we have with us today two fine people that I'm very familiar with. Today we're going to do a subject called the mindset of a warrior, and what better group of people to have it with than CEO Warrior themselves. We have Kevin Hill and Jason Noel. Welcome to the program, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great. Well, I have a long relationship with Kevin, and I'm starting a relationship with Jason right now. This is a great time to talk about it. Guys, let's dive right into this subject. What is the difference between companies that thrive and companies that seem to always struggle? And I call them serial companies that always seem like they struggle. Who wants to start with that one?
You know, I think companies that struggle, I think they're constantly changing focus. They're constantly looking at the new shiny penny. What's the newest and greatest? What's the thing that's going to change? And we constantly have this concept of complexity. We try and make things so much harder than they need to be, and we wound up struggling. And when we think about simplicity is when we look at things and make them scale. And we talk about that all the time at CEO Warriors, how we can scale so much quicker when we just use the simplicity scale factor.
That's really cool. And Jason, what are your thoughts on that subject? Do you feel that's simplicity? Is that one of the keys for you too?
I do. I feel like that's spot on. Like Kevin mentioned, there's so many avenues out there now where people can go out and get advice, and you just never know whether it's the right advice or not. Right. So I think being able to break it down and keeping the simplicity and then keeping the consistency is really what makes people succeed further than others, because they do something, it doesn't happen fast enough. Right. It's kind of like losing weight. You got to stay consistent with it to lose a little bit of weight here and there to be good in the long run. And I think consistency is a big part of that as well.
I know one thing that is an earmark of the CEO Warrior organization is like this unstoppable. It's always going forward. It's always, whenever I see anything you guys are doing, it's always an unstoppable mindset. How can leaders of, service businesses create that unstoppable mindset where they have a culture of performance and accountability?
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it, Joe. Accountability. We preach accountability quite often, and I think it gets mixed up. Like, what is accountability? And most people don't want to be held accountable. Most people want to talk about accountability, want to preach accountability. But when it comes down to it, they don't want to be held accountable. And they don't really understand what accountability means, right? They want to say accountable. They want to stay accountable, but they don't understand that there's the whole prequel to accountability, which in my mind is clarity and alignment. You have to have clear expectations, and you have to understand how you get, or your resources, to the why behind that clarity of what are we doing? Why are we doing it? If you don't have those two things, you can't hold someone accountable. And you're absolutely right. At CEO Warrior, we have this march forward mentality. And some people get it a little bit mixed up. We think, we've got this logo, had to figure out which side it was, figure out this logo here, right? And we're not all about the swords and this stuff, right? There's a mentality behind that. You know, we're all about, and I said this and it makes a lot of sense. Knock us down, sure. We promise we will get back up. That's that warrior mentality, right? And anyone that owns a home service business, and Joe, I know, like you said, I appreciate how long our relationship, mine and your relationship, goes back. Like nobody, like you don't even understand how much I appreciate how long our relationship goes back. That mentality is there. Like you're gonna fall down if you have a home services business. You're gonna get knocked down. What we preach to CEO Warrior, just get back up. Just get back up.
That's a good point, Kevin. Thank you for that, and definitely thank you for the relationship we've had. And I think a lot of contractors think, I can't hold people accountable. It mean I have to fire everybody. Like they only think accountability means firing. They don't think there's different gradients of accountability. And some of the accountability could be even a celebration. Jason, could you frame for us or give contractors out there just a glimpse of what does accountability look like? More specifically, Kevin makes a good point. If you don't have the outline or know what we're trying to accomplish or the objective, you can't be accountable to it if you haven't been taught that part of it. But once somebody is falling short or needs to get back on track, tell us what that accountability looks like in your eyes there, Jason.
Yeah, I think Kevin was spot on. I think if we look at accountability as a negative term, like that's probably a challenge in our culture, right? So our culture needs to be a place where, just like you said, sometimes we celebrate those things. But I think Kevin mentioned it, clear expectations, setting the standard, letting them know what needs to be done, not just telling them, but documenting those things, right? Because a lot of times I hear contractors and business owners say, I told them, right? But we know how that works out. So it's documenting it, keeping track of it, having consistent scorecard meetings. We're big on scorecard meetings and coaching meetings. And that's where we address those things, right? Here's your clear expectations. Here's where you are. Here's where we need to work. How can I help you get there? Right? It's those kinds of conversations of us being able to identify areas that we can help coach them in, and then try to get them to that next level.
So in your book then, Jason, accountability is like, let's know the score. So here's the objective. Here's where we stand. How can I help you or coach you to that thing? So accountability can be a negative term, and people I think I think words like discipline and accountability, which are really a way to get a foothold on success, have turned into something where I think everybody thinks it's bad. But I think you explained it perfectly. It's an opportunity to coach. Guys, one of the biggest things I've seen with some of the people that have my clients who have used CEO Warrior is the systems that allow them to get out of the truck and into running a business. Sometimes you have to work in the business, not on the business, as they say. And so tell us about the different types of systems that CEO Warrior helps contractors get that enable them to move away from the actual business they do and work on the business they have.
Yeah, so here at CEO Warrior, we have something called the owner's journey. And it's basically a roadmap of what you need to do to get to that point, to either get out of a truck or get to the point where you have a freedom of time or freedom of even money, right? So we have it mapped out. It's a week at a time, the 13-week onboarding. We go and we literally go one-on-one support with them through that process. Then once they're done with the 13 weeks, we move them into the next 13 weeks. Right. But it's listed out. We have the roadmap. It's done. Here's the processes you need to complete. So you're building your foundation. Right. But then in the meantime, we're working one-on-one to help solve other types of issues. Right. I'm not going to tell you go do your core values when you have cash flow issues. Right. Yeah. So we've got to be able to do both of those simultaneously and be able to work, go do your painted vision, but yet I don't have enough people to come up for the summer. So we've got to be able to do those things simultaneously. So we have the roadmap built out with all those processes and procedures. We use a coaching hub that we follow all that stuff through, and then we help them one-on-one through that development, but then also solving some of their immediate issues at the same time.
Hey everyone, just another reminder that if you want to learn how to recession-proof your business, we're having a live event on April 25th. So get your tickets in the description, either to our live in-person event here at our office in Culver City or the live stream version. Either way, get your tickets now.
All of us are imperfect. Even those of us on this very show have flaws and imperfections. But I always say the system is perfect. Does that make sense, guys? That once we design a system and it meshes together, it's perfect. Tell us about some of the mistakes or pitfalls, potholes, if you will, that you've seen people make that when they start on this systematic building, that they can make some mistakes and kind of scrape their knees a little bit before they get, as Kevin mentioned, get up. Hopefully they get up. But, the bottom line is, what are some of the mistakes that people make in this process?
So what we see through onboarding especially is they try to go too fast. They've got all these things that they want to accomplish, right? And that's where we talked about accountability a little bit ago. Like most of these entrepreneurs, right? And they're go, 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 go. And most of the time it's pulling them back. They want to do this and they want to do that and they want to do that. And it's like, slow down. I need you to run I need you to run the play. I need you to run through the process. Right. So that's what we see a lot. That and something Kevin mentioned earlier, going after the shiny object, right? Going after the magic bullet, all those things, that doesn't exist. So we have to be able to follow the process and do the work. So I think going too fast and just putting their direction other places is probably the two biggest things for me.
And I would add one more thing is I think people, regardless of coaching organization, think they sign up and magically expect their business to improve without doing the work. They just by signing the piece of paper to say, well, now I'm working with XYZ coaching organization, just by proxy, their business is going to get better. Well, it doesn't. They have to put in the work. They have to follow the processes. They have to actually do these things that we know work if you implement. And then they get frustrated. Well, where's the value? Where is I signed up and it hasn't changed? Well, you have to implement, put in the work, understand, get your teams to trainings, show up for the calls. Like all of these things are part of you leading the pack and creating change. So, there's a saying, the best leaders are students first. That's where that mentality needs to come in from the folks, the business leaders and the owners that join these organizations.
Let's talk about the role of sales and communication in a service business. And tell us what you guys feel. How important is that? There's the work we do, but then they call them the soft skills, if you will, the sales and communication, both internally and with our external clients. If they're so soft, why are these skills so hard?
This is
Great
this is great, Joe. That was a great way to put that. We spend a lot of time, like you guys, we spend a lot of time training the skills of sale or the art of sales. Communication is so key. The experience that you create within the home as a sales experience with the homeowner. It's so important. It's not just showcasing the service that you provide and getting the customer to say yes. It's creating an entire experience. And it starts from the moment the customer calls that home service provider. And it finishes with getting that customer to say yes to the optimal presentation and options that you have to provide. And it's all about communication. It's all about that experience that you create within the home. When you say communication, I don't think just what's coming out of this. It's not all verbal. It's nonverbal communication. It's how you present yourself. Those things, when you say they're soft skills, yeah, that's why it's hard, because someone just showing up doesn't just get the signatures anymore. It used to, Joe, when we used to sell, when we used to walk in homes, honestly, I think it was a little bit easier than it is today.
I think so too. And there's an ever-growing battle, especially with changing economies and now automated and AI solutions and things like that. Let's talk about the decision every owner has to make about believing in whether you're going to be a high-value business versus somebody who's always looking at the competition trying to compete on price. I mean, if you are going to be a warrior, you got to fight the person in front of you, not worry about the people who aren't here or whatever. You ever see that contractors get off track and they worry about their competition and what they're doing and try to compete on price rather than try to create their own value in their own unique position?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we do our sales training, I like to tell or teach, worry about you. You want to separate yourself from the competition. Be the cream that rises to the top. Don't worry about anyone else. And how do you do that? Value proposition after value proposition after value proposition. Be so good that there is no competition. When you walk in, the customer is going to have a price point in their mind. And that's here. If you continue to stack value with everything you do, the experience, what your company brings to the table, the installers that come out, everything else is going to stack that proposition. And when that value proposition supersedes that price point that they thought that was good and acceptable, when your value proposition comes in here, you're in the yes zone. They're going to say yes. And that's kind of that mentality that you need to have. But that doesn't come just by showing up. You have to stack a value. And when you do that, that has nothing to do with your competition. That's all about you and your organization and what you bring to the table. The other thing is you have to forget about a unique brand promise because there's not a lot of uniqueness anymore. Talking about coming out saying that you have 4.8, 4.8, reviews, an average of 4.8. Well, so does all your competition. That's not unique anymore. You have to be humanistic. You have to be you. You have to create that experience because everyone else has the same quote unquote uniqueness.
And how does coaching and mentorship kind of shape around all that? Is that something? Is something that is a key component of your organization?
I think a lot of times business owners, I mean, they don't have a lot of support, right? They're kind of up there at the top of this pyramid on an island by themselves. And I think in having coaching and mentorship, that gives them kind of a support mechanism, especially if it's a business where like it's a husband and wife owned business, right? They tend to not be able to vent to each other, right? Because that turns out to be a whole nother issue. And I think just having a coach and a mentor, between Kevin and I won't tell you how many years, but we have many, many, many years of making a lot of mistakes. So we teach people really what not to do, right? And I know you kind of mentioned that earlier. So I think the important part is just being able to have that support and have somebody to lean on. And like, I need to make this financial decision and reaching out. And let's do a financial deep dive to make sure it makes sense, right? And just somebody to ask them some probing questions because they're in it, right? They're in the middle of it. And I think somebody being on the outside, kind of understanding their business, but not being in the day to day, being able to ask the right questions to kind of get them to think outside the box a little bit. I think that's a huge proponent of this. And then also keeping them on track when they do tend to veer away off of the path, right? It's like, come on, we need to dial you back in, right? So just having that support, I think, is huge.
What are some lessons learned that you guys have both learned from contractors as you've gone through this process of guiding and mentoring people?
Kevin mentioned this earlier. I'm going to reiterate it again. The biggest challenge we see here at CEO Warrior is people thinking that we have the magic recipe, right? We do have the recipe, but you still have to cook it, right? You still have to mix it correctly, cook it, do the work. And I think that is by far the biggest challenge we see is just someone not wanting to put the work in. The successful businesses that have gone through this and they've gone through this process and they've sold and they're millionaires and some billionaires, right? They did the work. Like we'll tell you what to do and we'll show you how to do it. You just got to do it. And I think that becomes the challenge because they get busy and all that kinds of other things, putting out fires and being able to help them understand how to eliminate those fires before they happen. Right. So planning ahead, that's the biggest thing that we see to be able to, if they stay focused and do the work, they're going to be successful through this program.
I think there's some continuous limiting beliefs. People don't believe that what we went through or what we say will work isn't going to work in their business, their market, their region, what have you. And it winds up being a limiting belief for them. They get stuck in this definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And that becomes 100% limiting to them. But that they have to make the change. They have to drive the change and try something new. Quite frankly, it's one of the most rewarding things to watch is when a contractor or a business owner tries something new and light bulb goes off and they have success, and then they repeat that and have a little bit more and a little bit more, and they book a call with me or Jason and tell us about a great week they had, a great day they had. Automatically our question is, great, how do you repeat it? How do you make that happen again next week, next month, next year? Right? And I love that. But again, that limiting belief, or that, right, they get to the end of the diving board, and then how do you get them to jump off? It's the fear.
Yeah, I think it's hard to definitely something that people have to want their success more than the mentor or the coach wants it, because they have to put the effort in to do it for sure. Let's talk about the future of home service businesses with AI, automation, and new technology. I mean, a lot of contractors are swimming in all that, all those new possibilities. Every one of these things give us the allure of possible more profitable outcomes. But again, I think sometimes we get lost in all the different technologies and connecting all these things together. What are the biggest challenges going to face service businesses in the next few years? And what do you see in the future of the home service business going forward?
So you want to take that, Jay?
Yeah, completely up to you. I have some thoughts too.
Yeah. So I think I love the technology advances. I love some of the AI stuff that's happening, specifically the some of the like virtual ride along stuff. I love that technology. My biggest caution is make sure you have the basics down first. The basics of of running your company. A lot of the reasons why we have coaching organizations, or organizations exist, is to teach phenomenally technical people how to run a business. When they get distracted by this high level technical, they forget the basics of their business. And that could be a really dangerous recipe for failure, not for success. I love the technology, and I think it's a really great way for growth in organizations as long as they have their foundation solid. My fear is that some of these companies are going to get distracted by the great technology, and they're going to forget about the foundation. And if it has any cracks in it, we all know what happens with a cracked foundation. Everything crumbles.
As much technology as we have, it's always going to come back to a human experience that's being given to your client. And, the technology is only there to help us be more human rather than be less human. I think that's
Yeah,
an
agreed.
important factor.
Agreed.
At this point, guys, you always say a good podcast starts on time, but a great one ends on time. I'm not sure if that's possible, but let's go ahead and give people a way as to how do they begin with CEO Warrior, and what does it look like to work with you guys? Tell us how can we contact you, and how does it start with this thing, guys?
Yeah, the best way, Joe, is just to go to the ceowarrior.com. There's a link on there that has all of our contact information. There's a link on there where they can schedule a call with one of our advisors, just to kind of see what we're all about. We also have an event coming up in May, 15th and 16th, I believe, that's going to be live in New Jersey. It's basically 2 days talking about everything we do, and you can register for that on that website as well. So I would say log into the website, schedule a call with a growth advisor. They'll give you all the information they need.
So they're going to have an event in May. Definitely, maybe try to catch that one. And you never know. You might have your long lost uncle might show up for that one. You never know who will be there.
Nothing would make us happier, Joe.
We were going to invite him. No, I think the best thing to do is reach out. Just go through the website, get on a call with a growth advisor. They can explain the event in May, and how all that works. And yeah, we would love to have our long lost uncle join us.
If anybody needs help, go to ceowarrior.com and contact them. You'll be able to get a meeting, and they will learn about your company and help you guide the way to the systems that you need. Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone, this is your final reminder. April 25th, recession-proof your business. Uncle Joe is going to be teaching you how to recession-proof your business from top to bottom. This is absolutely information that you will not want to miss. So come out either to our live event here in Culver City or get your live stream tickets online at the link in the description. See you guys there.